Most people open their mouths and ask the wrong question. They say, "How do I make more money?" That's not the place to start. If you want money to flow into your life in a useful way, start by asking the opposite. How do I stop losing the money I already have? Flip the problem, and suddenly everything gets simpler. That's what this is about. Inversion as a tool for protecting and growing your finances. Charlie Munger taught it as a way of thinking. I'll show you how to use it to stop the bleeding and let compounding do the rest. If you want a one-page inversion checklist to follow, hit subscribe and download the checklist in the description. It'll walk you through the exact steps I'm about to describe. Let me begin with a story that will make inversion obvious. During World War II, a meteorologist was charged with sending pilots into weather they couldn't survive. He didn't sit around trying to make perfect forecasts. He asked a different question. How can I kill these pilots? It sounds grim on purpose. By inverting the problem, he revealed the true threats: icing on the wings and running out of fuel. Once he had those two lethal threats named, he could write simple rules to prevent them. Don't send planes into conditions that produce icing. Make fuel margins rock solid. The rules were boring, strict, and utterly effective. He stopped worrying about being brilliant at predicting every storm. Instead, he made sure the obvious killers couldn't happen. That mental trick, ask the lethal question, then banish it, is the same trick that will protect your bank account. If you ask, "How can I make a fortune?" you'll be distracted by bright, risky opportunities, by gurus promising quick wins, by dreams of a single trade or idea that changes everything. If you ask instead, "How could I make myself poor?" the list you produce will look mundane and familiar. Subscriptions you forgot about, credit card balances that creep up, not having a buffer for an emergency, chasing that shiny speculative idea at the worst possible time. Those are the leaks. Stop the leaks, and your money begins to flow. There are 4 easy and repeatable ways people get poor. Say them out loud and let them sting a little, because they're the practical enemy. First, sustained bleeding, the slow, invisible drip of recurring expenses that do little for your life. Unused subscriptions, one-click delivery habits, coupons of convenience that add up. $10 here, $15 there, a $30 meal delivery twice a week. It doesn't feel like much at the moment, but multiply small drips over months and years, and you have real money flown out of your life. If you spend $30 a week on convenience that isn't improving your life, that's roughly half of $100 a year. 10 years of that is $15,000, before you count opportunity cost or tax advantage growth you missed by not investing it. Flip it. Write down every recurring payment you have. Cancel the ones you don't use or that don't deliver real value. Replace convenience with intention. Decide which services are worth keeping and which are habits in disguise. Deleting a delivery app, pausing a streaming service, or consolidating memberships into one that actually fits your life is boring, but it immediately reduces drain. Automate the savings you create by canceling. Don't let them evaporate back into new subscriptions. Second, unserviceable debt. There's a difference between debt used thoughtfully and debt that slowly strangles you. Carrying credit card balances month to month, financing consumer goods at high interest, or having margin loans that require you to sell in a downturn. These are structural vulnerabilities. When markets wobble or life hits, leverage transforms a setback into catastrophe. You don't need a spectacular mistake. You need to avoid the predictable pain that comes with too much leverage. Flip it. Stop using credit as a convenience that becomes a habit. Make a plan to never carry balances that you can't explain on paper. If you have high-interest balances, choose one small winnable target and pay it down. Avoid financing consumer goods unless there's a clear, unavoidable reason. Build your life so you can live through rough patches without borrowing to survive. Third, no emergency reserve. Humans are fragile. Jobs turn, roofs leak, cars break down. Living on the edge, paycheck to paycheck without a buffer, guarantees stress and forces bad choices. People without reserves sell assets at the worst times or drown in short-term debt. That's not a moral failing. It's a structural vulnerability you can fix. Flip it. Create margin. Start small, if you must. Even a modest, reliable reserve changes your behavior. It makes you say no to bad deals and yes to long-term plans. Think in rules of thumb rather than absolutes. If your life is unpredictable, err on the side of more cushion. Automate transfers into a dedicated emergency account. Make that transfer invisible so it happens before you have a chance to spend it. You're not inventing a get-rich scheme. You're buying time and options. Fourth, chasing quick riches, speculation, and herd-fueled bubbles. Every cycle has its aspirational moment. When everyone knows this time is different, the dot-com boom, certain episodes of crypto froth, whatever the latest hot sector is, they all show the same human pattern. People reach for outsized returns because they underestimate the cost of being wrong. You don't need to be brilliant or prophetic. You just need to recognize that the probability of getting wealthy by frequent speculation is low and the cost of being consistently wrong is high. Flip it. Only play where you have competence or an edge. If you don't have a demonstrable edge, adopt boring, patient strategies and avoid the temptation to time markets. Be suspicious of narratives that promise fast transformation. If a trade or scheme sounds like a shortcut, ask, who benefits if I lose? Put your energy into the things that reliably improve outcomes. Steady savings, automatic investing, avoiding leverage, and learning slowly. These four paths, bleeding, bad debt, no reserves, and speculation, are simple because human beings are simple. We fall into pattern traps. The inversion exercise I give people is equally simple. Write down how I will go broke in 10 years. Be specific. List the tiny, ordinary things you already do that, if continued, will destroy your future. Once you have that list, invert each line into a rule that prevents the outcome. The act of inversion turns vague anxieties into actionable defenses. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. If your first line reads, I'll keep all the subscriptions because they're convenient, invert it to, cancel unused subscriptions this week. Keep one for real value. If the list includes, I'll buy now and pay later, invert it to, no consumer installment plans without an emergency fund in place. If you write, I'll put everything on a credit card and pay the minimum, flip it to, allocate an automatic transfer to pay at least the statement balance plus X when possible until high interest balances are gone. If it reads, I'll jump into the next hot thing to catch up, invert it to, before any speculative purchase, wait 30 days, require an independent checklist of reasons why it fits your prior rules. You don't need a long, perfect list. You need honest lines and simple inversions. That exercise is powerful because it changes the question from aspiration to defense. When you're defending intelligently, opportunities present themselves. When you're chasing, you're vulnerable. Competence boundaries matter here. I'm not a genius. I'm not brilliant at everything anyone tells me I should be brilliant at. I've watched people with natural trading instincts do well in short windows. But I've also watched smart people repeatedly lose because they thought emotion could be replaced by skill. Know where you have an edge and where you don't. If you don't have a track record of short-term trading, don't pretend you do. If you're not a real estate developer with deal flow and expertise, don't lever up on a whim. There's dignity in knowing your limits. The polite way to use this in real life is to assign roles. If you want exposure to stocks, but you're not a stock picker, consider broad, low-cost vehicles that roughly track markets. If you want to be active, but don't have the temperament, automate passive exposure and treat active trades as education money. Small, affordable, and never essential. If someone promises you a complicated product to juice returns, ask yourself who profits if you're wrong. If you can't explain it in plain language, that's a good warning. Systems are the friend of the ordinary person trying to build wealth. Weak will is predictable. Don't treat it like an insult to your character. Treat it like a biological fact and design around it. Automate savings. Make good choices the default. If your money flows out automatically to bills and saving before you see it, you don't have to practice self-control every month. If your temptation is delivery apps, delete them. If your weakness is impulse purchases on your phone, remove stored payment methods and require a card that's not with you. Use time as your ally. For small purchases, employ a cooling-off rule, 24 hours or 7 days before deciding. For anything above a threshold you set, say anything that makes a dent in your monthly budget, require a short written justification. A short delay kills most impulse buys. It gives you perspective and embarrassment is a surprisingly strong anti-fraud against poor choices. Make the default safety net visible. Put your emergency fund in an account that's reachable, but not easy to spend on a whim. Name it. Watch it grow. The behavioral benefit of seeing a number rise is often larger than the mathematical benefit of the exact figure. It changes how you think about choices. Once you have a buffer, you behave like someone with options. Concrete tactics you can use right now: cancel one subscription you don't use, set up an automatic transfer to a savings or investment account that happens the day you're paid, and pick one high-interest balance to attack this month. Those are small, concrete, and doable. Do one, and you'll feel momentum. Do all three, and you'll change your trajectory. Let's be specific about the math we use to plan, but not prescriptive. If you save $200 a month and invest it at a reasonable long-term return, the future value becomes meaningful. I'm not promising a miracle. I'm pointing out a simple truth. Money compounds more easily when you stop losing it. If you prevent $200 of monthly waste and redirect it, you've not only stopped the leak, you've given compound interest something to work with. Conversely, a single forced sale during a downturn because you were over-leveraged can take decades to recover from. Avoiding mistakes is often more powerful than finding occasional home runs. History is full of people who survived by avoiding obvious errors. Families who had modest reserves during past market shock periods could feed and shelter themselves, and often had the opportunity to buy assets at depressed prices. Investors who weren't leveraged during panic were often in the position to purchase quality at low prices. That pattern repeats. It's not an iron law that guarantees success, but it is a structural advantage you can create for yourself. A word on bubbles and fads, they end in messy ways for the ones who bought late and with debt. If a new headline makes you feel like you're missing the boat, that emotional cue is the one to be suspicious of. Often, the market's loudest cheer happens near its own cruelest trapdoors. Use inversion here, too. If you find yourself saying, "I have to get in now or regret forever," flip that to, "I will wait until I can explain the purchase to a skeptical friend and still be comfortable." Waiting isn't cowardice. It's a way to avoid self-inflicted wounds. Now, the exercise I want you to do before you click away, put pen to paper. Write the sentence, "How I will go broke in 10 years." Be brutally honest and practical. No platitudes. List 5 to 10 items. Examples might be, "I'll keep spending on subscriptions I don't use. I'll keep carrying a credit card balance. I'll put all my emergency money into a risky venture. I'll tap my buffer for purchases during good months." Or, "I'll chase the hottest asset because I hate feeling left out." Once the list is written, flip each item into a defensive rule. Turn "carry a balance" into "pay off the smallest high-interest balance this month," and stop using that card for new purchases. Turn "chase hot assets" into "require 30 days and a checklist before any speculative purchase." Make each flip specific and actionable. Choose the one action you can do in the next 24 hours and do it. Cancel a subscription, set up one automatic transfer, or pay down a small balance. Don't overcomplicate it. The point is to create a habit. Identify a lost channel, legislate its removal, make the change automatic. I'll end with something simple and perhaps a little uncomfortable. Being boring is a competitive advantage when it comes to money. The world hands out drama and glamour. Wealth quietly favors the patient and the steady. If you want money to flow, stop treating finance like a stage and start treating it like plumbing. Fix the leaks first. Build redundancy. Automate discipline. Be honest about where you don't belong. And remember, you don't need to be brilliant to win over time. You need to be consistent and avoid obvious mistakes. So pause now. Write your "How I Go Broke" list. Flip every line into a rule. Pick one action you will take this week. Cancel a subscription. Start an automatic transfer or pay down a debt. And do it. Download the inversion checklist from the description to keep the process simple. Flip the problem and watch your money flow.